Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who has joined. Thanks for joining our webinar on RPA in 60 minutes by Kaar Tech. Today we have Gaurav Khandelwal, who is the Innovation Architect at Kaar Technologies Inc, with more than 10 plus years of SAP expertise. With vast experience across SAP technical areas, SAP Cloud Platform, RPA, and blockchain, he will share his insights on RPA across different line of businesses and will address each of the industrial pain points. With that note, and without any further ado, I will hand over this session to Gaurav. Hello, Gaurav. Over to you.
Thank you, Glenn. Hello, everyone. Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. And thank you so much for joining in this webinar. Hi, this is Gaurav Khandelwal, and currently I am leading the innovation practice with the Kaar Technologies. We do a lot of interesting, stuffs and use cases in our practice on RPA, artificial intelligence, machine learning, chatbots, and the blockchain. And in next 30 to 35 minutes of time, I'm going to take you through the journey of RPA. What is an RPA? How an organization can implement RPA, which can support it in the digital transformation journey in terms of automation. What are the typical use cases of RPA? And we are going to give one case study for one of our customers whom we implemented RPA and went live some time back, and how they benefited from this complete implementation. I'll try to explain RPA with an example. RPA is one of the trending terms nowadays across all the enterprises. If we see the Gartner's report or any kind of reports, RPA is one of the technologies where most of the organizations are going to invest. One of the reasons is the COVID as well. After the COVID, the work from home scenario, organization felt a need of automation, a need of productivity at their enterprise level, and that's where the RPA came into the play and why it is moving further and further. Let's take an example, and I'll just try to explain by an example how RPA and what is RPA and how RPA can support your digital transformation journey. So I'll take a simple example of an invoice processing. Any organization in this world, they will have this process of invoice processing. What typically happens in this process? Organizations department, finance or procurement department, they receive an invoice from vendors. The department people, they go into the ERP system, they fill the invoice data. As of now, till now, most of the organizations, they are still doing such processes manually. Yes, there are electronic invoices, and that is the best way of doing. But more than 90% of the invoices processed are manual. If we consider all the organizations, small scale, medium scale, or large scale, how do they process this? What do they do? They get invoices over that email. So invoice copy over an email, or maybe by hard copy or any other way. A person from finance or procurement department, they take the invoice, they go through the data, they log into their ERP system and enter the data. This is the same task they do for all the invoices. And even a small organization gets hundreds of invoices a month during a month's time. So they do the same task every month, hundreds of times. And it has very limited to no decision-making skill. So we can easily say this is one of the tasks which is a tedious task and which is a manual task. RPA is and as I said, integration is something which is not possible always, because let's say if you are getting an invoice copy over an email, you cannot do an integration over there. So RPA is a solution which targets or which attacks this kind of issues. Now I will just I'll give a solution for that. Instead of doing this manual, let's assume you have a program. I would say as of now a program. You have a program. Rather than user going to the email, and let's assume you are getting your invoice to the email. Rather than user going to the email, let's say the program automatically goes to the email, extract the invoice, read all the data from the invoice, then go to the ERP system, open the screen or a transaction and enter the complete data and create an invoice. Let's think this process. I mean, the first process was a manual step where user is logging into the email, reading the invoice, entering the data. Here is a complete automation, and this program what I just said is nothing but a bot, and this bot is on the concept of RPA. So basically, RPA, or a robotic process automation, is a technology where we define such bots to automate all your tedious or a manual or mundane task where there is no intelligence required, where organizations have been wasting the productivity of their manpower. I just gave one of the examples of invoice. Like this, there can be multiple examples across the organization where the uh, employees are just doing the same task again and again and again without applying any intelligence. And that's where the RPA comes into the play. In RPA, a bot can be designed which can read data from any kind of source. The source, I just give an example of an email. It can be an email, it can be an PDF, it can be an Excel, it can be a Word, it can be a web page, it can be any ERP system. Basically, a bot can read data from any kind of system, can process the data, and can send data to any kind of target system. Again, target system can be an Excel file, or it can be an ERP system, or it can be a web application, or it can be any kind of application. So you can think like whatever scenarios so far which were not possible using an integration, because for integration there is a prerequisite, both the system should support certain types of protocol, can be achieved through RPA, where you can have a bot which can read the data from any source, it can process it, apply the intelligence, and can post it to any kind of transaction. And that is an RPA. So RPA is not a new concept. It was an old concept. But now what is new is an intelligent RPA. What is the intelligent RPA? Let's try to understand this intelligent RPA with the same example of invoice. I gave an example, like each organization, they receive an invoices from multiple vendors. Now let's assume there is an organization which is receiving a different invoices from different 50 vendors. So there are the 50 different kind of invoices an organization is receiving. And let's assume we have developed a bot. The bot is able to read all those 50 kind of invoices and able to post it. But all of a sudden, one of the vendors changes their invoice pattern. Instead of, let's say, date or name or some details, they have just changed the alignment. That is not in your control. You cannot dictate vendor not to change anything. Now, as soon as, let's say, the invoice pattern is changed, your bot might stop working because your bot is trained to read certain kind of invoice, and as vendor has changed the invoice, so your bot is not able to read. And that is where the role of intelligent RPA comes. RPA is something which automates your process, which reads the data from source, any kind of source, transfers to the destination or a target system. Wherein intelligent RPA, what it does, it not only reads the data, it applies the machine learning or artificial intelligence capabilities to those data. So what example I gave, let's say at the invoice level, some data or the vendor has changed some data, or the way the data was coming to the organization or customer, it has been changed. The bot itself can determine based on the data set what it has, can find out, oh, there is a change in that, let's read this data and process it. The manual work comes only if the bot is not able to find the difference. So that is what an intelligent RPA, which further reduces the manual job. And nowadays, most of the RPA solutions are the intelligent RPA, which are just not they automate the process, but they apply the AI/ML capabilities to find out the changes, to take the decisions as well, and to process the data. Apart from this, RPA has one interesting use case of integrating with chatbots. Now we all know chatbots are also one of the trending. It is a trending technology which almost all the organizations have been implementing. But there are certain use cases. I'll give one use case. User reset. Let's say employee wants to reset its password, employee's password. Employee forgot, and now what is the normal way of doing? Now most of the organization, they just send an email or raise some service ticket or something like kindly reset my password. the person who is responsible reads the email, they go manually to the system and reset the password. Now, rather than going through this whole process, let's assume you have a chatbot. In the chatbot, you give okay, you have an option, reset the password. You give you select the option, you give your user ID, and there is an RPA bot behind that, which can take the user, can log into your system, can set the password, and give it to back saying that your password has been reset. So that is where the intelligent RPA comes into the play, where it can tightly integrate with your chatbot solution and it can perform the actions. So your overall user experience increases and your turnaround time for your issues decreases. And OCR is something we just spoke about. The capability of reading the invoices. You are getting the PDFs, you are getting the images, you are getting a different kind of documents. RPA just not extract the data, but it can locate the fields with the latest OCR techniques. It can read all the information precisely and can put this data in the desired format or in the desired system. So that's the concept of intelligent RPA. Just not do the process automation, but apply the intelligence on your processes, whatever you are doing. Try to make it more automated and reduce the manual work as much as possible. In any RPA solution, whether it's an automation anywhere or whether it's a UiPath or whether it's an SAP's RPA solution called Intelligent Rpa, there are two kind of bots which are developed. They are called as attended bot or unattended bot. Here we are calling them as a digital worker or digital assistant. So let's assume, let's try to understand what is a digital worker or what is a digital assistant. Now I'll give an example. There is a process. Let's continue with the same invoice example. Now, you would like to have a process that you don't want to monitor the invoice creation process. You want every 1 hour or every, let's say, 30 minutes, automatically bot should read my inbox. It should extract all the invoices and it should create an invoice in the system and just send me an email. It should happen, everything should happen in the background. I don't want to see this process at my system, or I don't want to interfere in this process. Once I get an email, I will go into the system and just verify. So that is nothing but your digital worker. You have a bot which is running parallel to you, processing the data and just updating you, hey, this information is over, hey, this invoice is posted. So that's a digital worker, or that is something we call it as an unattended bot. And to talk about in the technical language, something called a background job, where a bot is installed on some system. Automatically, it's on some interval, it wakes up, it processes the complete steps, and then it generates the output and it dies. So that's a digital worker or a parallel process where you don't have to interfere, or your no manual intervention is required. And there is something called digital assistant. So now let's take an example. Invoice being a critical data, you don't want that to happen in background. But what you want is whenever I wish, I will start my bot. Bot should open my inbox, should extract the data, should post it to the system, and I'm going to observe that. So that's become your digital assistant or attended bot. So basically, attended bot is nothing but a bot where, as a user, you trigger the bot for whatever task you want to do. As soon as you trigger a bot comes up, it completes the process and dies. So it is happening in front of you. So that's the digital assistant. So at the high level, RPA bots, which can automate your process, can be of two types: a digital worker or a digital assistant. A worker is nothing but a bot which is performing its operations or performing its all the processes in the background without you noticing anything. Wherein digital assistant is something based on your need, you are triggering the bot, you are initiating your bot, and you are looking at the process, and the bot is trying. Which different product call it as a, sometimes the product call it as an attended or unattended bot, as I said. And RPA, it does not only works on reading the data from PDF and all. It has a capability. Nowadays, the advanced RPA solutions have the capability of integration via APIs as well. Now let's take an example. Let's say you are working on an ERP and your ERP provides, it can be an SAP or Oracle or anything. It provides an API to create an invoice for it. And you are reading the data from the PDF. So one of the ways is you read the data from the PDF. A bot reads that basically data from the PDF. It logs into your ERP system. It enters all the data and it posts your transaction just like how a user does its activity. But when you say that, okay, that takes a little bit time. But when you're saying that, okay, I have already an API, why can't I use API at my ERP end? So that is also possible nowadays on RPA. You can read data from your document and you can directly trigger your API to the backend system and post your transaction. So that kind of features also RPA supports. From the diagram, you can see that it is showing there is a email, there is a web, there is an Excel, there is a web, there is an Excel, there is a SAP system, there's a cloud system, there are documents, there are databases. So what it is trying to convey is a bot has a capability to read any kind of data from any kind of source, can apply the brain or a process, which is what we are calling as an intelligent RPA, and can post data back to any kind of system, whether it's a SAP or non-SAP. And RPA is not limited to any systems or any module. It can have a use cases across your systems, across all the line of businesses. What are this slides explains some use cases about RPA. What are the typical use cases for what you get in RPA? Again, these are not very limited. We are just trying to explain here. The use cases are not limited to this. For an example, customer service automation. So basically, when let's say you get a customer ticket or a email, a bot can read this email and can respond. Financial transaction. A bot can help you with your financial closings and all the manual efforts. Data management, the best example. What happens in the data management? There are teams sitting at the organizations who are just manually entering the data. A bot can enter the data. Operations management, where you can do monitoring or any kind of manual task, you can do the automations and shared service automations. So these are the areas where RPA can or bots can really help you with the process optimization. How this can help an organization to achieve the digital transformation, or to know what are the benefits an organization gets when RPA is implemented. The first benefit is the improved operations. Basically, as I said, you have a lot of people sitting and doing the manual job. Now, instead of people sitting and doing the manual job, we have the bots who can do the maybe 70, 80, 90, or maybe 100% of the task. So you are doing, and those same set of people can be mobilized to a different work where there is a human intelligence is required. So basically you are utilizing your resources at the right place, and the bots has been utilized to do the automation at a very lower cost, because the RPA bots at the cost wise, they are very cheaper and they do the processes much faster, which you will see in one of our example. Increases the service quality because the RPA bots, they run very fast. Let's say as an user, if I have to go to a screen and I have to create one transaction, I might take 5 or 10 minutes, which a bot can do in 10 or 15 seconds of time, because the bot quickly logs into the system, just enters the data and save it. It doesn't wait for anything. Then increase the compliances, because the bot or a software is doing your job. Basically, you don't have to worry about any kind of security breach or compliance breach happening in the system, and reduce the human error. Bots are trained to enter the data, so they will enter the data what is there in the system. There is no possibility that bot is mixing up the data and entering the system, so it can reduce the human errors as well. As a Kaar Technologies, we have been working on the RPA space since quite some time, and there are, at high level, there are 3 products where we are really good at. Those are the SAP iRPA, Automation Anywhere, and UiPath. SAP iRPA is basically SAP's offering on RPA, automation and UI anywhere in UiPath are the leaders along with SAP iRPA in the RPA space. We help our customers and partners to choose the right product based on their need. We try to understand their need and we help them to choose the right product and help them to build the right solution. And we have certain steps to do that. I think if anyone is interested, we can discuss that after this webinar or so. Considering the time, we are not going to go into the detail of all the three products, but we will just talk a little bit about SAP's product iRPA. Having said that, even if anyone would like to get more details on automation anywhere in UiPath, we will be more than happy to provide those. So let's talk a little bit about SAP's solution. SAP's iRPA, which is nothing but SAP's Intelligent Robotic Process Automation. This was the solution which SAP released a couple of years back, and it has been getting a really good adoption throughout the market. It is a cloud-based solution. So basically, your RPA engine is running on cloud, and your bots, they run on your system. One interesting thing here is, I would just like to clarify, because whenever we talk about cloud, most of the users or most of the organizations, they feel, oh, because we are processing a lot of data on our system, if it is the cloud, my data will be exposed to the cloud, and there is no security there. And especially if the RPA service is not available in your region. So we don't have to worry about this things for the cloud-based RPA solutions. What happens? On the cloud, it doesn't store your data. It just stores the information about your bots and your how the bots are installed. Basically, sorry about that. So basically what happens is your bot is running on your system. It runs on your desktop, your local desktop, wherein your engine is on cloud. So when it runs your local desktop, all your data it processes on your local desktop, and it doesn't send it to the cloud. It just sends some logs information. So your data is always secure when your RPA solution is on cloud. I just wanted to convey that. Now, SAP iRPA, basically it is a service on top of on BTP platform, and it is available for under, I think, CPEA agreement. What are the advantages of SAP iRPA compared to other products? So basically, as I said, we support multiple products. We try to understand the customer requirement and we try to map the requirement with the right product. So when it comes to SAP iRPA, what are the advantages? What are the advantages over the other products? Why you should choose an SAP iRPA? Let's discuss a little bit about those. SAP iRPA, being an SAP native product, it provides a really great connector to your SAP GUI, or whether it's a Fiori or so. So being a native product, it provides a really nice connector. Apart from that, it provides a mechanism to call web services or RFC or on all those things on your SAP. And it provides a capability of API calls, what I just discussed some time back. You don't need a digital access fee, which is again a great point with SAP iRPA. But when you use a different RPA platform along with SAP, you have to take a digital access license. Apart from that, there is a bot store available. If you are on an SAP landscape and if you are choosing an SAP iRPA, already there is a bot store where you have lot of bots, more than 100 plus bots are available for free to use. Basically, you just subscribe to iRPA, download the bot if you feel that matches to your requirement, and you can start running it. In case it doesn't match, you can still customize it and you can run it. So that is another plus point you get with an SAP iRPA. Then, as I said, you can integrate with conversational AI. SAP has a solution, SAP Conversational AI. It can easily be integrated with RPA solution to perform some task. Apart from that, it is available as a part of CPEA option, and you have the very lowest footprint on desktop because it's a cloud solution. So you just install the bot runner in your system. You don't install any other software for that. So these are some of the advantages of SAP solution. So what are the key differentiators for SAP's iRPA solution? So basically, being a native product to support the SAP application, unique pricing model. I will just come back to you on this point after all the points are over. Then we have a bot store. it gives a really great user experience. Apart from that, it's a very development friendly. If for all the developers or anyone who is from the technical background out there, this kind of RPA solutions are really development friendly. You don't have to go and write lot of code. These are just like a workflow steps: drag, drop, and very few, minimum to no scripts you have to write to achieve the complex functionality. Otherwise, it's kind of a no code, platforms, and it can provide a complete solution to industrialize the robotic approach. So why the pricing is one of the major factor when we decide a product. Basically, when you buy an SAP iRPA, they don't charge you for any, for anything which is like an RPA engine or RPA bot runner or anything. Wherein there are products like Automation Anywhere and UiPath, which charges for your RPA engine. The SAP charges for your RPA bot runs. Each product has its own advantages and disadvantages in terms of pricing. If your number of bot runs are very high, in that case, you might have some different product which might get an edge over SAP IRPA. So for pricing part also, as I said, if you need more details, you can let us know. Now let's discuss few of the RPA use cases. So I have been talking about RPA, what is RPA, how it can automate. But let's understand more via some use cases. Payroll, the first use case, what we are highlighting. I might not go in the detail of each and every one, but let's discuss few of the common and the ones which can give a more idea. A payroll file generation and validation. Now we all, every end of the month, the payroll file gets generated. And in many organizations now also, what the HR department they do is, once the file is generated, they do the lot of validations manually. And it takes lot of time. And the payroll is run at the end of the neck of the moment, and they don't have much time and do the validations, and it results into the incorrect payroll runs. We can avoid such things using bots. A bot can be designed where we can define all the validations to be done. As soon as your payroll is run, bot can log into the system, can do all the validation, and can just update you quickly. And this can happen any point of time, maybe during the night times, and the bot can do this kind of validation very quickly. If an user is taking, let's say, 4 hours of time, bot possibly can do in less than 30 minutes of time. That's what we have seen. Then chatbot for employees, which we spoke about. System and interface monitoring. This is also one of the interesting use cases in the RPA space. Any organization, they operate on multiple systems. They have multiple servers, and they keep monitoring those. And the worst part of the monitoring process is many organizations, they monitor from the premises. Now, this kind of monitoring is required throughout the day, 24/7. You have to monitor each and every day, 24 hours, which is very difficult, for employees to do. RPA can be a really nice use case here, where you can design a bot. A bot can monitor your system. You can just define your steps, log into, let's say, your SAP server, log into your Oracle server, Microsoft server, web server, or any kind of server. Go to this screen, capture this data, go to this screen, capture this data, generate the email, notify if there is an emergency. Bot can run every 5 minutes. It can run all the days. It doesn't take holiday. It cannot do. It won't take any holidays, no weekends. And your systems you can monitor 7 days a week throughout the day, where you really don't need a huge team sitting and monitoring the things. So this can be one of the really great use cases. Creation of sale order from purchase order, customer complaints responses, which we spoke before, managing orders, electronic bank statement. That is also one of the interesting use case. The bank statements. Again, this is one of the common processes across all the organizations. So what happens? If you already have an integration in place, I think you are good. You don't need RPA. But let's say there is no integration. What happens? The bank, the finance department, they receive the bank statement every day, or maybe at predefined interval. They download the statement, they go to the system, and they enter, either they upload it manually or they make the transactions manually. So this is again a manual process which they have to do every day without taking a lot of decisions. And this also can be a really good use case for RPA where a bot can, read your statements from wherever place, maybe from the bank portal, or maybe from your email, or maybe from some FTP folder or anywhere. It can read your statement, can go to your end system and update it. Then the next case is employee hiring. I think we are going to discuss in the next slide, so I'm not going into detail. Offer letter creation, because offer letter creation also needs data from multiple systems. So you can have bot which can read and automate this process. Email notification to customers, document process validation, and manual data entry validation. So these are the high level use cases which we have encountered multiple times across the multiple customers and who are demanding this kind of automation. So we have just highlighted here. Now, next slide is going to talk about the line of business specific use cases. There is a finance department, there's a procurement department, there's a sales, there's a project management, there's a warehouse department, and there are several such departments across the organization. RPA can help you to automate in all such departments. It's the only, it is the only thing that we have to identify. We have to go and find out which department is doing what manual work. RPA has a capability to automate almost all of your business processes. Here we are just highlighting few of them, like let's say from the finance, the JV upload, outgoing payment file, down payment create request, managing the incoming file, managing the bank statement, and automatic processing the bank statement, which we spoke about. From the procurement, it can be supplier invoice, which I spoke a lot about, master data automation, operational purchasing, PO confirmation, and PO creation as well. From the sales, it is sales order creation, manage sales order, manage sales inquiries, and quotation creation. From the project management part also, there are some use cases. And as I said, not only from this, from any department, we can have use cases for RPA. So now I'll talk about the customer journey, one of our customers who utilized RPA to automate their business process. I think this will give you the fair idea to understand how RPA can help to automate, and can help to reduce the time taken to complete a process. So this is a customer where we have been providing a service, and they had a really huge gap in the employee hiring process. So their complaint was whenever they want to hire an employee, it takes hours of time for them to just enter the data. Then they were explaining us this process, and we were already running this RPA practice. So we just wanted to understand what is the issue they are getting. So what they said is they have a different department. They have a department for onboarding, they have a department for recruitment, and they have a success factor system where they are maintaining the complete data and they are uploading the document. Now what happens? They don't have integration between all such systems. So what they are doing is from each department, one person is going. So whenever, let's say, they want to hire one employee, first the onboarding person will maintain some data. Then the person from recruitment department would go in the system, would maintain some data. Person from employee central department, or basically a successful HR person, would go and maintain the data. And there will be a person who will upload the data. This complete journey takes almost 1 hour and 45 minutes of time for them to hire a single employee and just to maintain the data. And they were literally saying that it is taking a lot of our energy and efforts and a lot of manpower as well just to do this process. We went into detail and we tried to find out, okay, what is that we can do here? And then we concluded, okay, there's something like we can design a bot for this customer. So, okay, so these are the pain points. So there was a communication gap, time consumption, and there was a high possibility of human errors because a lot of people are entering the data. So there is a good possibility of errors. So what did we do? We designed a bot. A bot logins into the first system. It performs the operation. It extracts the data. If it has to fill in the data, it will fill the data, extract the data. Then log into the second system, do the same thing. Log into the third system and do the same thing. And once the data is maintained to the SAP SuccessFactors system, take all the documents from one folder. The folder, we ask customer to just keep the documents in the folder, take all the documents, go in the system and just attach it. The time the manual time, what was taken earlier was almost 1 hour and 45 minutes, which was reduced to just 8 to 9 minutes after the bot was implemented. You can just imagine about that. And the customers' happiness was at another level because the people were happy. They did not have to do a lot of manual work. Lot of resources were not required, and the bot was able to do much faster what they were doing, just validation once the data is entered. So the one person would come, do the validation and just say, okay, ready to go. So that was the use case we developed for the customer. So just to give an insights about this use case. On an average, this customer took 20 to 25 employees. So that effectively took 47 main months of efforts for them to hire. After we implemented RPA, it just took 3.5 to 4 hours of time, which saved almost 91% of their time. So you can just assume how the RPA can help. It is not like RPA will always reduce the time, but sometimes RPA helps the company with saving the time. Sometimes it helps in terms of cost as well. Here it helped in both the ways. It helped in terms of cost by reducing the efforts from the human resources, and it saved a lot of time as well. It was an return of investment. Like if the number of employees are 25, for 1 year they will take almost 600. So these numbers you are saying are for an year. For 1 year it will take almost 600 hours. If manual work is done, and with the bot it took just 42 hours for an year for them to hire all the employees. You can imagine now the time which a bot can save. Not only this, like this, there are several business processes. So after this business process, the customer was so happy that they asked us to implement more and more bots. And not only in this customer, we feel in all the customers, on all the partners, there is always a scope, there is always a department where the employees are literally fed up with doing their manual work, and a bot or I would say a digital worker or a digital assistant can help them to automate the business processes. Now, so this was one of our customer. Apart from that, we have been working with multiple customers. So these are some of the examples, like employee hiring, creating order, court case. Basically, that was a very customer specific example. Then system monitoring, what I just spoke about. We developed a bot which could monitor almost 8 to 9 systems and the chatbots. So these are our previous experiences on RPA, and we already have such bots available which we help. I mean, these are like ready to deploy, so we help customers with a little modifications and we deploy for them. Okay, so this was a brief introduction on what is RPA, how RPA adds value to the organization, what are the products as a Kaar Technologies we can support. Now, I'll hand it over to our country head, Mr. Param, who will give a brief like why you should choose Kaar as your RPA implementation partner. Param, over to you.
Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks for the interesting session. I hope everyone is enjoying the session. So I'll just keep it very quick because I don't want to. I want the floor to open for the question and answers. It should be more interesting. So why KaarTech? I'll just make it very quick. So KaarTech, one of the largest SAP digital transformation companies across the globe, with over 15 years of pure play SAP excellence, and now we have done close to 2,000 odd SAP projects for over 350 plus global enterprises across North America, UK, Europe, and rest of the world. Some of the key portfolios where Kaar could be your right partner for addressing your end-to-end SAP requirements will be on the areas like digital transformation roadmap and assessment, S/4HANA consulting and services across public cloud or private cloud, RISE with SAP, cloud consulting services across solutions like SuccessFactors, Ariba, Analytics Cloud, and platform and integration services across the emerging technologies like BTP, BPI, and Delbhoomi integration services across CPI and the rest. And of course, RPA, which Gaurav was talking about. Apart from all this, we have a proprietary tool, K-Turn, which is our proprietary IP built for accelerating the digital transformation projects for S/4HANA across brownfield or greenfield implementation projects. So we can talk more about it. What I would be interested is, as a follow-up to this webinar, probably we can get on a call and discuss on the potential synergies and understand your current business pain areas across LOBs, which Gaurav was highlighting. So what we could do is we could do a discovery and come back to you with a detailed roadmap and do an assessment across any of your current pain areas, and probably start with the POC, deploy the ready-made KaarTech bots which are already available, which could be a quick starter to address your current pain area. And we can take it up from there in terms of any of your SAP needs across your IT landscape. So I will stop here. So I'll open the floor for question and answers, and we'll come back and discuss this in the subsequent calls. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thanks, Param. So I think this is to everyone. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box. We will try to, you can put it in question and answer section. Sorry, not in chat box. We will try to answer all your questions, whatever is possible now. If something is not possible, we definitely will be in touch with you after this webinar. We will send you an email. And I think there was a hand raised by one of the attendees, Sagaya Xavier. Do you have any question on this?
Yeah, hi. I think I just want to see a demo of one of your bots. I selected no for the survey by mistake, but if you can show just one demo, that would be great.
Oh, great. So I think we have videos available for demos, and definitely what we will do is we will share the links to these videos after this webinar to you, and you will be able to see the videos. In case if you would like to see the live demo, that also we are, we'll be happy to do that. So
okay, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we will send you the videos, and then if you feel that okay, you want to see a live demo, that also we can do that.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's fine.
So there was a question like, what will happen if there is a software delay during the process of a bot working? Will it manage automatically or need to manage explicitly? That's a really interesting question, and that is one of the things we face while doing the bot development. Because even if you're working for your on-premise system or you're working on your cloud system, sometimes your systems are very slow. And RPA bots are designed on the different techniques. Sometimes it is, as I said, it is just an integration. Sometimes it is via capturing the screens. And in case if your systems are delayed or your systems are slow, your bot will not be able to enter the data, or it will just go to the next step without giving the data. So this kind of issue happens, and it has happened with multiple customers. So what we do is generally, first of all, we try to find, okay, we do the performance testing and all, and try to find what are the screens where this kind of issues can happen. We try to add some delay and some validations, like if this many fields are filled, then only go to the next screen. If this happens, then only go to the next screen. If this message comes, then only go to the next screen. So this kind of scripts or rules we write. So even if your software or a solution is slow, the bot still can go and can make sure that your data is entered. So this is to Sharon, the question what you had asked about. I think any other question?
Gaurav, two more questions are given in the chat. Samir has asked, what do you recommend for an RPA solution, UiPath or a SAP iRPA?
Okay. So as I said, we don't recommend upfront any solution, because each solution has its own advantages and disadvantages, and each customer has its own need. There are customers who are, price sensitive, who feel no, the cost is a factor for them. And there are customers, possibly like from the insurance and finance vertical mostly, that they say, no, I don't want to think about cost, but for me, the transactions are in millions and I want it to be smooth and scalable as much as you can. So this kind of, requirements we get. There are customers who say, I am dealing with hundreds of vendors and I want a perfect OCR algorithm. OCR is basically extracting the data. There are customers who say, I deal with very few, vendors, so I want a workable solution. So what happens, what we do is, we conduct a workshop with all our customers or partners called design thinking. we have some set of questions. We try to ask them these questions. Okay, what are your requirements? What are the use cases? And what you would like to achieve? We collect all those, and based on the cost and all those factors, we suggest them a solution, whether it is an iRPA, whether it's an automation anywhere, whether it's an EY. So that's how we go ahead. I mean, there is no, there is no, right or wrong solution. It's based on the requirement. We suggest the solution to the customer, and all the solutions, automation anywhere, UiPath, iRPA, they are really good in their areas, to be honest. And there was a question, what about the scalability during the process execution? So that is also a good question. So basically, RPA, few of the early adopters of RPA were the banking and the insurance, institutes, because they are the ones who get hundreds of thousands of requests a month for it can be a complaint, it is some request, it is a service, and they had lot of people in the back offices who were doing this manual process. So RPA literally automated many of the processes, and they were the early adopters of RPA. Now, if we talk about the banking and financial institutes, definitely they can't work with a one server and one solution. They need always a huge, with a solution with multiple servers, and the solution which is able to handle thousands of transactions. So all the RPA solutions, whether it's an automation anywhere, UiPath, iRPA, they have a good capability to scale, starting from few hundreds to thousands of transactions, how they can handle. And they have a setup like HAD as well, high availability, where if your servers are not available, you have a secondary service which can support you. So this all things are available in, to attack any kind of issues at the customer level. And if you have something in specific, you can let us know. We can provide more details on that.
Gaurav, other question has asked by Rapata is that can RPA replace the interface between systems? If we use PI bar PO for interface currently, will RPA do the same?
Okay, that is also a very interesting question. And this is again, it has been asked by many customers. My first suggestion would be RPA is a technology which can read the data from any source and can post to any target that I have been saying. But integration is the ideal way of connecting to the two systems in case if you are looking at something real time. Let's say my requirement is as soon as I post a transaction to source, it should post to the target. RPA cannot do that because where we have been talking like RPA is something like it is an attended bodies you are going to trigger manually. Unattended bodies, every let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, it will trigger and it will complete your process. But your requirement is real time and your both the systems are supporting interface. Then integration should be an ideal way of doing. But your PIPO system, if you are just using for let's say a file transfer purpose, because again the cost is a main factor. RPA is much more cheaper than your traditional middleware technologies. So in case you are using your PIPO system just for let's say a file transfer, reading the file from one server and putting in another server, and you don't really have a requirement for going for real time and very high monitoring and all, then RPA can be considered. But still, as far as you are able to do an integration using middleware technologies, that is a recommended approach. That is how we go about. We don't blindly recommend RPA for all the processes.
Gaurav, another question from Xavier is that common challenges with bots, anything we should be aware before implementing bots for business processes?
Yes, there are a lot of things we need to consider before developing the bot. The first important thing is, because RPA is so trending that many organizations, they are just going and they're saying, okay, let's implement the bots and automate everything. That is not the way we should go about. What we have to do is, first of all, we have to find a process which is really an RPA use case. Not everything is RPA use case. Let's say you are doing 100, 200 transactions in a month, and the efforts are spent just a couple of hours. You really don't need RPA on that. You can still go and do that. But if you are doing the thousands of transactions per month and you're spending a lot of time, then RPA is a need. So finding the right use case is a key to start with. Once we have that, Then choosing the right product, because as I said, all the products have a different capabilities. Some are very good in some areas, some are not good. So choosing if you are not choosing the right product, it can backfire too. And apart from that, the implementation process is very much, it has to be, the business requirement has to be very clear. Generally, the bot development doesn't take much time. It is the RPA bots are not like our typical implementation project, which goes like 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or 1 year. No, it's not like that. RPA, the small bot you can develop as less as like 1 or 2 weeks, and complex bots also you can complete in a month or 1.5 months of time. It is the time which a bot development takes. What is most important is the requirement, and are we capturing all the validations, all the rules, all the business requirements, all the use cases. That is something very much important. Is the development part is that is a good news about RPA, that the development part is very less and very quick. So these are the factors we give a lot of consideration to finding the right use case, right product, taking the correct requirement, and then mapping to the Any other question, Glenn?
There is another question, Gaurav. So from Rapata itself, how is RPA-based updates in SAP impact the user license?
Basically, SAP RPA has nothing to do with your user license. SAP has introduced a concept called digital access license. So whenever we are designing any process on RPA, we have to, the customer has to take a digital access license, and that is the advantage you get with SAP iRPA, because being a native product, you get some benefits over there. But if you are working on different product like Automation Anywhere, UiPath, or any other Blue Prism, or any Pega, or any other product, and if you are building a bot, you have to take a digital access license from SAP for certain type of documents. There is a complete, detailed document available. Let's say from finance, for materials, for time management, for payroll, for sales document, how the SAP charges the digital access fee from the customer. And we would be happy to share with the participants, whomsoever is willing to take that.
Yes, Gaurav, I think that's it. And hope everyone's questions are addressed. If you have any further questions, please drop an email to bglenfemin@kaartech.com. And you can reach out to me via mail, and you can see my mail at the chat itself. And thanks for joining, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. For any questions, you can ask us. We will be happy to share all the details. Thank you all.